Okay, I'm fully aware that I'm getting to this very late, but yeah, this is definitely an October Halloween release. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. TARDIS, and we have our annual release for one of my favourite ranges from Big Finish Productions, The War Master, where Derek Jacobi, who made a single appearance in Series 3 but was one of the best surprise guest appearances in the entire history of the show in my opinion, he made his appearance as the War incarnation of the Master, before quickly regenerating into John Sim, but this is his 12th release for Big Finish Productions. However, this latest one, his greatest trick, is sort of a soft in-universe reboot. Let me explain. Since the start of the range in 2017, the director and the producer of this range has been Scott Handcock, with last November's release, Future Phantoms, being Scott Handcock's final director and producer credit on the War Master range. As you can see from the credits here for his greatest trick, the latest one, Robert Valentine has taken over as director and producer because Scott Handcock, he went to work as script editor for the main show of Doctor Who. And because of course there's a big delay between when these releases are recorded and released, for example Future Phantoms was recorded in late 2021, early 2022 but didn't come out until late 2024, that's why we're only just now getting a non-Scott Handcock box set. His greatest trick was recorded in October-November 2023. Robert Valentine is a Big Finish mainstay, a very safe pair of hands for this incarnation of the Master, and this latest box set, His Greatest Trick, sees 4 stories from 2 veteran writers and 2 newcomers. We've got The Grievance Bureau by Lizzie Hopley, Last Girl Standing by Catherine Armitage, The Worst of All Evils by Ian Winterton, and The Blue Shift Ritual by Adam Christopher, Ian and Adam being newcomers to Big Finish. And the premise of the box set, but primarily the premise of The Grievance Bureau by Lizzie Hopley, and as you can see from the cover here we've got Daleks and Time Lords with the Master in the middle, is basically the Daleks and the Time Lords have come to an agreement, an unofficial agreement, that the Master is too volatile a presence to be a part of the Time War and must be eliminated. And that's the inciting incident of The Grievance Bureau, where the Time Lords and the Daleks have kidnapped the Master and are going to put him on a show trial, essentially, to get him executed. The Master is court-martialed because the Time Lords need to be seen to be doing this, quote, above board, so they're charging the Master on something to do with his escapades at a renowned cloning facility. Essentially, they're trying to get Al Capone on tax fraud. And on one side of this trial, you've got the Daleks, played by Nicholas Briggs, of course, as usual, doing brilliant work, and also you've got Judge Reuben, played by Ben Arogundade. And that's the framing device, because a lot of this story is told in flashback as we learn what the Master has been up to at this cloning facility called the Grievance Bureau, which is overrun by Professor Jean Vengler, played by Jessica Dennis. And the idea behind the Grievance Bureau is that Jean Vengler and her clones basically offer a service to rich customers where they can clone anyone that you have a grievance with or you want to take revenge on, and you can take revenge, physical, emotional, whatever, on that clone if you can't actually get a hold of the person proper. Which in an age of artificial intelligence now is a pretty relevant prospect. And as this trial unfolds, we learn that the Master has been up to something significantly shady that could put the whole Time War at risk.
I see. You're showing me terrible things at a very fast pace. Most of which I committed myself. Desert Ograms have developed subliminal testing better than this.
Test subject's blood pressure slowing.
I suppose it is oddly comforting. A whole movie of my greatest hits.
No amygdala response.
That is your standard psychopath test. Please tell me I scored higher than you.
Increase the data feed. We will overlay a projective verbal test.
Please don't show me the cards again. It was funny once.
We have accumulated certain words and sense imagery found to have an emotive effect on the psychology of humanoids.
How devious of you.
You will respond verbally to the following. Cat.
Box.
Dog.
Fool.
Doctor.
Fool.
Master.
Board.
Vortex.
Activate.
Gallifrey.
Explain.
Dalek.
Dead. You asked.
It's genuinely so funny in this story that the Time Lords and the Daleks know that the Master is trying to manipulate them against each other, but the Master, with his silver tongue, is still able to do it. And Derek Jacobi, as he always does, he never phones it in these box sets, is really excelling with the material. And I really got the sense that it was such a gleeful script to read. I think that Lizzie Hopley's script really moves forward with such propulsive energy. It's got great speed, it's got great wit, the actors are absolutely terrific. I think that Derek Jacobi and Jessica Dennis are a brilliant pairing in this story, and it's a really strong start to the box set with a terrific and brilliant ending. And just when you think the War Master cannot morally sink any lower, he somehow finds a way, and that's often the most surprising part about this War Master range from Big Finish. Because if you're new to this range, while the War Master stories don't market themselves as older, more mature stories, like you listen to a Torchwood story and it opens with "this is for an adult audience," the War Master stories, I would argue, are for an older, more mature audience. But it's not just the violent and macabre side of the Master that's presented in a box set like his greatest trick. We're basically entering a new chapter in the War Master's life, and I think that this is Robert Valentine's mission statement now that he's taken over from Scott Hancock. The War Master is coming to the realization that there is no surviving this Time War, or at the very least, there's no outcome where the Time Lords or the Daleks will win. It's going to be mutually assured destruction. So if this is going to be how he ends, or how the universe more broadly ends, he's just going to enjoy watching it burn. And I think what we get over these 4 stories is the War Master going through, in his own unique way, the 5 stages of grief, and Last Girl Standing is his bargaining stage. Because Last Girl Standing by Catherine Armitage opens with the War Master having been the headmaster of a private boarding school for several months, and he's not been doing anything. He has people under him to run the school, all the while he's getting very comfortable and cozy in this haven in the school that he's built for himself. As the plot description says, he's lying low in comfort, having expensive wine, and basically just shadow running the school. And it seems like while the Master has been lying low in comfort, he's also watched Squid Games, because you have one of the professors at the school, Professor Leto, played by Isabel Farah, who basically pushes him to action to nominate a head girl. And the Master, wanting to basically manipulate all of the students and the faculty, essentially engineers a Squid Game inside of the school, where the last girl standing will become head girl and become the Master's new protege.
The time has come to select a head girl. Apparently, this is usually done through such criteria as attendance record, community spirit, and other nauseating absurdities.
What is he doing? I don't know.
This year, we're going to do things my way. I will not be appointing a head girl.
What?
Instead, dear students, you have the chance to prove yourselves to me through some surprise exams.
Oh, you look so excited, Scholar.
Ignore him, girls. He's joking. That's not how we do things.
The student who comes on top in these tests will be crowned head girl.
Don't worry, girls. I'll sort this out.
Tough break, Suki. Mummy's money isn't going to help you this time. That would be a great burn if I actually gave anything about being head girl.
The first test is very easy. All you have to do is find me.
No.
Last Girl Standing essentially follows 3 main students. You've got Brenna, played by Sophie Shad, you've got Nadia, played by Sapphire Joy, and Suki, played by Bethany Antonia. And while it's initially quite hard to get your bearings on who is who, thankfully as the story does progress, these 3 characters become well-realised, well-textured individuals in terms of their characters. These are 3 very different people with 3 very different upbringings. One of them was poor, got in on the Scholar program, so knows that they're smarter than everybody else, and because they're part of the Scholar program, they're nicknamed Scholar, so everyone kind of by proxy knows that, yeah, this girl is smarter than us and we have to bring her down. You also have Brenna, whose former sisters at the school were also head girl, so she has a lot of expectations on her shoulders. And while I wish in this story you did have the Master being a bit more proactive, or at least more active in the story itself in the first 2/3, you know, getting involved in the challenges, maybe being a more formal spectator, he's basically watching from cameras and surveillance devices in his office in piece. However, it does allow for a great dynamic and interplay between the Master and Professor Leto. There's a really great exchange when something horrific has happened to the students, and Leto says to him, "You're twisted," and the Master responds, "Thank you, I like your jacket." Like, this just rolls over him, and he sort of takes this as a compliment. This is such a sadistic incarnation, and the contrast with Derek Jacobi's old, like, gentle voice with this horrific dialogue and these horrific actions is a big appeal of this range. But despite him having fun and manipulating all of these students, basically how he treats as human cattle, he is still in his nihilistic phase here. He's utilizing these students as a resource for his entertainment, yes, but they're also a proxy for him to regain control again. You know, what's the catchphrase of the Master? "I'm the Master and you will obey me." The Time War has just broken way out of his control, and I think he's using these schoolgirls as a way to regain control of the situation in the most literal sense. And I've said this before with Big Finish stories, particularly these hour-long stories, you know it's a good episode when it reaches its natural end point of the story, and you still have like 15 or 20 minutes of the episode left. For me, it's not a universal rule, but it's a pretty good indicator that this is a really great story, and the last 15 to 20 minutes are devastating and really effective stuff. And I also think that the cast stand out here. While all of the girls are great, I think that Sophie Shad as Brenna, she gives an exceptional performance. Sophie Shad gave an incredible performance as Vasilia in The Legend of the Baba Yaga from the Fugitive Doctor Most Wanted box set at the start of the year, and she's also brilliant here in His Greatest Trick. What I will say though, and there is a slight issue that Last Girl Standing and the third story, The Worst of All Evils by Ian Winterton, what they fall into is that this is the 12th War Master box set, so you are going to have these repeating themes and repeating ideas of the Master having a potential companion or a potential protege, and because we've seen that so recently in Future Phantoms and Rogue Encounters, it means that a little bit of the wind is taken out of the sail of the ending of stories like Last Girl Standing and The Worst of All Evils. It means that while these endings are still laced with malice and tragedy and are still entertaining in a sadistic way to listen to, it means that they're not quite so gut-punchy. It means that they're a little bit predictable. They sort of like lead to these inevitable endings of the War Master is going to betray the companion, which is a bit of a shame, but the journey is what matters, and that's where we find ourselves with The Worst of All Evils, where the Master's TARDIS is damaged by a time destructor from the Daleks, and the Master lands on Hiroka, which is Earth's Transmat Empire hub. There, the Master meets an activist, Carla Zeng, played by Kwana Lo Masterson, and he's quickly locked, along with Carla, inside of a prison camp, and it's a race against the clock because the Master has been dropped off a few days before the Daleks' time destructor is going to detonate. So he has to essentially engineer a prison escape with Carla and some other misfits inside of this prison camp.
Who are you?
Me?
He's the Master.
And you, girl. I remember you from Kulka Prime. Medical detail. You showed great bravery. For a human.
Thank you. Basaya, please, address the people.
They need guidance. They've given in.
But you haven't, have you?
This is not the end for me. Or Kulka. I know this to be true.
More mindless optimism. You're as bad as she is.
Hey!
I know. Because I have faith.
In your gods?
In myself.
Well, that won't save you either. In a few hours, we're all going to blink out of existence. We'll barely notice, just a second of searing pain and terror, then oblivion.
I can see why you and Nietzsche got on.
That is, if we don't figure a way out of this place.
It's a really great premise, and I loved the first half of The Worst of All Evils, especially as we end up meeting this eclectic group of aliens, including an inflatable, fart-smelling humanoid character, who's essentially like a living Zeppelin. I thought that was a really fun idea, and the sound design around the character was really fun. However, while the prison break itself allows for some really great introspective conversations between the Master and Carla, the story does lose all sense of urgency and pace, and more importantly, a sense of place. The Master and Carla have these really lengthy, intimate conversations as the rest of the inmates are supposedly digging their way out of the prison camp with spoons, but where are these conversations happening? Are we in a tunnel? Are we in a confined prison space? Do they go back to the cell? If so, why are so many of the other cast members so nearby in order to contribute to these conversations as well when they're meant to be digging their way out? I don't know, it was a bit of a frequent pace breaker and immersion killer. And while the ending with the War Master and Carla is effective, as I have mentioned before, it is quite predictable, but it is still great to see Derek Jacobi really let loose in the final few minutes of the story. You know, once again, he never phones it in, terrific performance. And lastly, we have the Blue Shift Ritual by Adam Christopher. So the story opens with the War Master kidnapping a Dalek prototype, basically a squid in a jar, called Sigma Delta Sigma, which acts as a repository for all Dalek knowledge. And while transporting Sigma Delta Sigma, the Master encounters a old time vessel that was from ancient Gallifrey. Inside are 4 ancient Time Lords, basically from the early days of Gallifrey when they were just starting out time travel, led by Hera, played by Lizzie Hopley. You've got Fate, who's the second in command, you've got Mirand, who's the warrior priestess, and you've got Ikos, who's the pathfinder, and these 4 have been sent on a mission to reach Akerporis to reach the Infinity Engine. And the Infinity Engine will apparently instigate the Blue Shift, which will be the end of the universe, and these Time Lords have been sent on a mission to stop that from happening, but little did they know they were going to encounter the future of the Time Lord race and basically the worst thing it could possibly produce.
You can read the spells.
Spells? Oh, how quaint. But then I suppose the mathematics of trans-dimensional physics are rather magical in their own way.
What is he saying?
Here, look.
What are you doing?
That's better. My translation may be a little rusty, but E equals MC cubed. And this, power series, N to the... That's interesting.
Hera, he blasphemes.
I will get the truth out of him.
Silence, both of you.
What did you mean, translation? How can you read the inscriptions?
Because I learned the language at school. But that was a very long time ago.
School?
It's Old High Gallifreyan. Old High Gallifreyan. Your entire capsule is inscribed with the trans-dimensional equations that allow it to travel in time. It's a time scaife. You are Gallifreyans, travelers, a very, very long way from home.
Game has to respect game, okay? Blue Shift is a Time Wirren reference, the Paul Cornell novel. Basically, it's a throwaway line from the novel where the Blue Shift is meant to be the end of the universe, and massive respect to Adam Christopher for taking a throwaway line from a novel and incorporating it into the Time War. And I also really love the first half of the story. The War Master's banter and back and forth with Sigma Delta Sigma is really entertaining, and you can tell that Nicholas Briggs really loves portraying different, less predictable Daleks. And the way how these 4 ancient Gallifreyans react to the Master, a Time Lord of the future with this incredible technology and TARDIS, and he might as well be a god to them, and some of them actually treat him as a god. And there's conflict there between the Gallifreyans. I do think, however, in a rush to get to the end of the story and basically the titular greatest trick that the Master has to pull off for this box set to make sense, it means that this episode is in a bit too much of a rush to get over and pass over that conflict between these 4 Gallifreyans and their dynamic with the Master, which for me I thought was the most interesting part of the story. It would kind of be like if people from the Viking era were to encounter people from the modern day, and not just people from the modern day, but the worst people from the modern day, and what would that do existentially to them? That's a really great idea, and I think that it could carry a story in and of itself, but then for the second half of the Blue Shift Ritual, we basically abandon Sigma Delta Sigma, we abandon 3/4 of the ancient Gallifreyans so that the Master and Hera can have their interplay, and then Hera gets sidelined and roboticized for an ending that is entertaining but formulaic. This is Adam Christopher's first Big Finish script, and he shows massive potential in the first half. I'm not sure if he knew what he had here, like just how compelling a setup that he had. It's not a bad story, and I'm sure that there were requests from on high with Robert Valentine to end the box set a particular way so that they can start their own adventures, basically. Basically, the War Master does an 11th Doctor, and maybe it's a necessary evil to instigate future War Master stories. We've got another box set coming out in 2026, Deeds Without Name, which, now I know the outcome of His Greatest Trick is a brilliant title, but I think more could have been done with the brilliant characters introduced in the first half of the story, and basically for the second half the plot has to take over. But throughout all 4 of these stories, with I think the Grievance Bureau and Last Girl Standing being the head and shoulders standouts of the box set, I think what stands out throughout all 4 episodes is Derek Jacobi's performance, where he's basically become like the Wilfred Owen World War I poem, you know, a devil who is sick of sin. That's the quote that Adam Christopher gives in the behind the scenes of the box set. Don't worry, I'm not that literary, I'm not that well read. What does the universe's worst creation do when the universe gets worse around him? And that character work in Derek Jacobi's performance over the course of these 4 stories is fascinating to listen to. And kudos to Robert Valentine, and kudos to all of these writers, both experienced and newcomers, for putting together such a entertaining and really fun box set. I really enjoyed His Greatest Trick. Deeds Without Name comes out in October 2026. We know nothing about it, but that's kind of what I love about the War Master range. You know, they only tend to drop one of these a year. They drop one box set of 10 out of 10 bangers and greatness and then just leave, see you next year. I appreciate the restraint. But with Derek Jacobi, at time of recording, he's 87 now. I wonder if we are facing some sort of end game for the War Master range. You know, it would be sad to see it end, but, you know, it could end with a massive bang, it could end with an interesting whimper. I don't know, I'm still waiting for the Jonathan Carley and Derek Jacobi proper crossover, because Dark Gallifrey in 2025 was not it, unfortunately. But anyway, that was the War Master, His Greatest Trick. I want to know what you folks thought about the box set in the comment section below if you have listened to it, and also be sure to subscribe, hit the like button for more Doctor Who Big Finish reviews, and folks, I'll see you all next time.